I can see it in your eyes.
Yeah, somebody suggested recently, somebody close to our heart, that we should take up yoga. So I quite literally took him up on that, and
Ah,
I've spent 7 weeks on a yoga retreat.
I can sense the zen
Yeah,
coming from you.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Powered by Keo, lubricates you like no other stuff.
yeah, I'm in one of my country seats. I forget where it is, near Berwick. I'm outside Berwick, so I'm about 60 miles from Edinburgh.
Nice, nice.
Um, the stuffed giraffe is over there, and yeah, it's okay. It's all right.
Having a nice time.
Yeah, yeah. It's quiet. It's misty and rainy and foggy. But I didn't really come here for the Pilates classes. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's more of there's a pub within walking distance which I've yet to enter, and so on the upside, I've yet to be thrown out
oh,
of.
there's the night's not over
Yeah,
yet, though. In truth, is it?
yeah. I mean, early doors, but it's very nice. Nice gaff, middle of nowhere. It's a bit like that where I live. It's because I'm hard work, and I just said to my token bird that's the frame of reference. Find somewhere that's as good as where we live. So I'm going to have to get one of these chairs. Very
Even if she
comfortable.
doesn't, you have to remind her every day how lucky she is to be married to you.
Well, there's an element of luck. There's an
Yeah,
element of luck. And then we have to think about how much her dad is worth. That comes into play enormously. So we're both kind of beating around the bush. And so let's start the show. For those of you joining us late, we're 5 minutes in. We beat somebody. How does that sit with you?
it's lovely, isn't it? It's people are often calling us morose, negative, and down the dumps. But today, brother, I think we should party. Let's partay.
Well, I mean, I feel rather confused. I really enjoyed the game. I thought Spurs were snappier, sharper, and more to the point than we've seen in a long while. And the only thing I will say, and this is gonna be like a recurring theme ish. I didn't see Ange doing anything different,
Do
and
you,
I'm wondering if Thomas Frank didn't leave the door open a little bit.
one point I'm going to put out there to you to see if you think it differs. Do you think that a doggy was operating as a more traditional fullback? Because watching it, I didn't think he inverted so much, and I thought he had the ability to be a rampaging, attacking fullback. As the stats come out, are you able to put that myth to bed, or
Yeah,
tell me
no,
anything more?
looking at the average positional place on the park, it's notable that both Doji and Porro got more in unison up front, and they were really quite a pivotal or essential part of the mix when it came to our press. Um, but it has to be said as well, in the same token, that I didn't feel that Brentford particularly did a job on us in respect of, when we've said, oh, Sean Dyche or whoever it might be, insert AN manager name here.
Yeah,
I didn't feel that they really did a job on us. I'm sure that they felt they were on the right path when they opened up with that wonder goal. Incidentally, if you watch that again, and I've put the ball in play clips, which is a new feature we're doing, so you get everything apart from the junk. All the junk is taken out, and you just get the action, the passes, the shots, the goals, and all the rest of it. So the actual watch time of the game, I think, was about 50 minutes in total. Um, but if you look at that goal, there would be questions if you swapped VDV out for Eric Dyer, there would have been questions asked, which is just something I throw into the mix there. But I thought that was a sensational goal. But apart from that, and a few other sort of scares they gave us, they really did leave the field pretty open. I
yeah,
thought,
yeah.
which played into our hands.
It was refreshing to score 3 goals. It was nice to see Solanke get off the mark, and it was nice to see Brennan Johnson score a second goal in a second consecutive game. As I said, we're not haters. We all want to see whoever puts the Tottenham shot on do well, and it's all about
Yeah.
confidence. And hopefully, the boy can kick on from this point onwards.
Well, what I'd say about Solanke as well, which I think is important, and I say this with the caveat that I don't warm to the idea of him. So if he becomes an unlikely saviour, an unlikely hero, that's fantastic. As you say, you put the shirt on. We want you to do well. We don't, it's not our occupation that we want to sit here and take delight from things being fouled up. That's not the case. But we are realists. So Solanke got his goal. It wasn't a great goal. It was a little bit of a insert name of any of the strikers that we had in that whole uh, protracted entourage of trying to find a striker routine. But do you know what? I don't care. I really don't care. If he only scores goals like that, it'll always leave a question mark over his head, unless, of course, he turns out to be on a par with one of these guys who always gets in at the deck, like a Didier Drogba.
Yeah,
There's occasionally bodies squirted and sprayed up the side of the posts and the net and the meshing and what have you. Um, but if we think for us about ourselves and think about Harry Kane, he was frequently a slow starter, and this guy was out injured, which has to be factored in. But the fact that he got a goal in so early in this campaign is a positive. So I would like to see more, but I'd like to see unless, as I say, unless he's going to go down that sort of Drogba route, there are other sort of Ian Rush, those guys, particular sort of focused tap-in merchants. At the end of the day, history doesn't really remember the quality of the goals. I think Kane is pretty much unreplaceable or irreplaceable, as they say in English. But I think it was great that he got his goal in because Kane has frequently in the past has not been particularly prolific till later in the season.
well, having seen Postiga, Gregor Rasiak, Sergei
Yeah,
Rebrov, Janssen, Soldado all struggle to
yeah,
put the ball anywhere near the back of the net. I'm going to
yeah.
take anything that comes off his ass cheeks, his knee, his forehead, and his schnozzle. So it's a goal. Let's hope that there's many more to come.
I thought Brentford were missing players, which we all knew. But I think tactically they were a little bit naive, and it's almost as if Thomas Frank said, "Well, do you know what? We're not going to come here and do a number on you. We're going to come here and play football."
Yeah,
And I think, as I say, that early goal was absolutely breathtaking. There's no two ways about it. And I think that actually probably worked against their favour because they thought, well, if we can get back to what created that, and they never could.
no,
Um,
we had, I think, about 22 chances. So again, if we'd have turned a few more of those shots into goals, we could have walked away from that game with a far more healthier score. But as it is, 3 goals, it would have been nice to have kept a clean sheet, but that was a wonder
yeah.
strike. And the rest, as I say, is history.
Possession, just to say, was a lot closer. Again, the raw data, when you strip out all the stuff that didn't mean very much, when you're looking at actually the quantity of balls passed between teammates, you're very, very, very close to 50-50.
Right, okay.
And so that kind of underlines that point I made about Frank coming here and not trying to do a job, but to play his way to beating us, which I think was ultimately part of their downfall. But certainly, if you look at uh, players that had far improved games, and I'm looking down here because I'm not deranged and I can't keep this stuff in my head, but um, James Maddison was an awful lot freer, both in his movement and in his influence. And he received the ball 51 times. I mean, he really was verging in falling into that sort of metronomic sort of involvement that you get from like uh, uh, Luka Modric type player, very influential outside the box, very much forward on the left hand side. But behind him, you had Udoji on 38 received passes, Sonny on 37, and 35 on Porro, which again goes back to linking up with those two on the left and the right, really playing in a more sort of traditional, um, on the front foot attacking, but right and left back. So much improved performances all across the board, but in particular James Maddison.
I've got
Some
to
of his
say,
little dinks were
yeah,
particularly pleasing.
I think it's his best game I've seen for some time. He got the goal. It was more like the Maddison of old, which we were used to. And the reason why was because he was operating a lot more forward at the pitch, as opposed to
Yeah.
recent weeks where I'd said he'd been playing almost centre back. So that's where you get the best out of Maddison. That's where you get him thriving.
No, you'd picked it up a long time ago that he was playing far too deep for his own good. This game saw him playing much more farther forward and to the left-hand side. And his heat map, I'll see if I'm able to stick it in. I'm on a different machine, so God knows what's going to happen when I come out with this tape. But yeah, if you think of him sort of, as I say, in that sort of attacking left-hand side, and that's where the real heat was. And it was very much in a controlled area, but he was really pulling the strings. Kulusevski was pretty good. He did give the ball away a few times, but in the scheme of things, it wasn't a disaster. And he recovered possession 14 times, which was incidents where Brentford lost the ball under pressure. So it was his, and perhaps joined in with other colleagues, harrying of their players that then got us the ball back. And Destiny Adoji, he recovered the ball 17 times, which, people kind of, I know people are a bit funny with stats and numbers, but this gives you, this underpins what we're talking about. These were improved performances for a reason. And as I say, Destiny really raised his game considerably because there'd been all sorts of remarks made about him recently about falling asleep and not quite being at the races. But this was a game where there's a massive uptick.
And another one, which was a tiny little cameo that may have gone unnoticed by many, but when Basuma came on and he did a
Yep.
slide challenge just outside the edge of our box for the third goal,
Yeah.
one possession, and then the long ball went up. That was refreshing because we haven't seen any of that in recent games. So it's these little changes that you think actually same personnel, same formation, same players, but people may have been waking up to the reality of the situation or been asked to do a little bit more or make slight changes or tweaks. So let's see what comes of this.
I think that the players would have got a little bit. I mean, because footballers, we make the joke that they're thick, but they're not that thick in the most instances, and they will have picked up what all of us have in the last two press conferences um, ahead of this game. The embargoed section in particular, where we had Ange dropping in these just little lines about, well, if I'm the guy who's going to be here at the end of this process, if it's me that's still going to be in the job then, and talk about, how long his commitment, how long his tenure at Spurs is going to be, players will pick up on that. And I think if he's said that publicly, which is a soft enough way just to sort of read the room, because clearly that's what the press were thinking.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about it. The mood has been a little bit grim because you've got to win games. And all this, as I refer to it, this campfire Ange thing is all well and good, but we need to see you winning games. And I think behind the scenes, he's lent into them. I think he's not balled them out. I don't know if he does that, if that's his tactic, but I think he's been Mr. Hands in his pocket, a bit stooped over. Come on, guys, what the is happening here? You've been given your instructions. I've told you how it works. We've seen that you get it some of the time. Is there any chance we can just make that some of the time a bit more of the time?
Yep.
That's my feeling. I think that he's basically perhaps cut back, or maybe this is the voices in my head talking, but he's cut back on the when I was in Okinawa, when I was in Alawa, he's cut back on that, which are reference points which nobody over the age of 12 is going to impress anybody. And he said to them, look, you showed me over here in that game, you showed me you could get the bloody ball in the back of the net. What happened in the last 10 games?
Yep.
Am I talking to myself here? And I think he might have put it on them. I hope he has. But yeah, Brennan Johnson wasn't brilliant outside of that particular strike again.
No.
As a team player, there wasn't much there.
And I don't want to sound like a record repeating itself, but for me, Son, yes, he assisted for one of the goals, but again, I don't know, he just looks lost out in that left-hand side position on the in the wide area. Just doesn't seem to be creating the chemistry that he once did with Harry. When Kane was there, they could close their eyes and know when the ball was going to come to one another. At the moment, it just feels like it might not be going his way as things stand.
No, I'd say he is one of the biggest concerns. Without him, um, actually doing anything daft. I mean, you look at Vicario, for example. Somebody needs to sit down with that kid.
Needs to have
Excuse me.
needs to put an arm around his shoulder and have an honest word
Yeah.
with him. Is that whole sequence where people were saying should he have got sent off? I didn't think he should because they were covering defenders, so there were three people behind him. Yet he did go out of the box and he did handball it. But you're thinking, why did you do that? When you looked at the situation of play, you're thinking you're supposed to be an international goalkeeper. You're supposed to be a Premiership keeper. It's just people have worked you out that you're weak at crosses. People have worked you out that you're weak from free kicks, corners, so they're going to be targeting you. And even initially, we were like, "Oh wow, this bloke's brilliant from playing out with the back," but now his feet are a real concern because he plays us into danger more often than not.
One of the problems with Vicario, and it is 50% of his problem, is that he is just a naive human being. I mean, obviously, we don't know what he gets up to in the real world. But as a footballer, he's immensely naive, and they've definitely caught on to how to attack him. If you watch Brentford got a lot of balls into him, which he comfortably gathered. But the problem that Brentford had, and it was probably down to them having missed a couple of those, you know, interesting players that they were without yesterday. They didn't get players going up at him for the ball. So they were doing the right thing, but it was like they weren't kind of following it through and really putting the heat on him. But he doesn't have anybody behind him, as you
And
pointed out
that's what
recently.
we've spoken about time and time again. When you are
Yeah,
so complacent that no one's going to push you, that goalkeeping jersey is yours. It doesn't keep you on the toes. You think about when we had the
yeah,
forward line of Defoe, Berbatov, Robbie Keane, Darren Bent. With
yeah.
the exception of Bent, you had three very, very, very good forwards. So you knew that once you got a place, you had to do everything to keep it yours, and you were spurred on by the competition. Yet when you're a goalkeeper who's got a 36-year-old who, as you told me last week, a transfer fee of about $1 million is aligned to him in this current day, you know that's a bloke just
Yeah.
warming the bench and getting splinters in his ass. So where is the competition? We haven't got any.
Well, the problem is, I mean, somebody made the point on the Substack the other week, and they said to me, about these other goalkeepers that are kicking around. And I said, look, I hate to break it to you, but they're not getting minutes anywhere. They're basically untrusted by Ange. And we've had this historically with Tottenham coaches, with, if you like, junior staff. And until that changes, I mean, yesterday we won 3-1, but 7 minutes is what 40 million quid's worth of. Is it Archie Gray? I always get
Yeah,
Archie and
yeah.
Archie. We've got 7 minutes for him, 7 minutes for Mikey Moore. I mean, these guys need to be blooded. They
Yeah,
need to be properly
when
blooded.
a future
Um,
South Korean sensation turns up, he'll probably be getting 80 minutes a game.
yeah, well, let's put it right. I mean, the reality is there are going to be enough people in the crowd to cheer him on, even if he ties his shoelaces together and it keeps on falling over like he's a competitor and it's a knockout.
and
It won't
selling a
really
load
make
of,
much
and
difference.
selling a load of shirts at 59.99 a time.
Well, if only they were that inexpensive. I was looking at something the other day. They're putting the prices up next season. They're putting them up. It's only about I think it's £5 for the basic shirt and a tenner for the premium as worn by shirt. But yeah, the problem with Vicario is that he doesn't have that pressure. Um, so for me, it's not like the jury is out on Ange. I would never speak like that. I think the jury is in, and I think that he's not going to beat. I mean, I would love when we play Manchester United. I would love to thump them 3-1. I would be happy to beat them by a single goal.
Yeah.
I'm not an unreasonable fan, but his system, I think it's not unfair to say that Brentford didn't set their stall out to nullify us as some other coaches have.
Look, I know
Um,
people accuse us of being negative. They accuse us of being moaners, but it's one win. If you can build on one win and turn one win into 10 wins, then that's the right thing to do. But if we go up to Old Trafford next Sunday and end up getting panned 5-0, it shows that 1-0, that victory against Brentford may have been in isolation against one of the poorer teams in the league. It's can you get those same results and the consistency against your Man Uniteds, your Man Cities, your Arsenals, your Chelseas, your Liverpools, your Newcastles. So far, we haven't, but
yeah,
that's the focus and the ambition that you've got to have to be able to perform consistently on a regular basis.
and the other thing I will add is that obviously you and I are no spring chickens when it comes to
Oi,
football.
oi, oi,
But
oi!
I've been,
Careful.
I mean, I have to say, you appear to have lost about 10 years in the last couple of days. I didn't
This is
know there
this
were
is
such healing properties in
this is
alcohol and
this
sunshine.
Club 1830 holidays. It's working wonders for me.
but one thing I can tell you without equivocation is that I've been doing this for over 20 years, and the reason that we're not um, moaning, moaning minis or whatever they want to call it, is because we're not stupid. The amount of people that attack people who make intelligent, informed um, comments made through context and understanding, such as we do, who don't last the course. They don't. They don't. These are the. Why can't you get behind the team opposed to in its way? These people are deadbeats, absolute deadbeats. We all want Spurs to win. That's kind of like the default setting. But equally, we're not prepared to put up with anything in order to fulfil that. And I think Ange has been hugely naive. I think his Ange ball doesn't really exist. We got I think if we're honest, I think against Brentford, we got a flavour of that period of those 10 games
Mm-hmm.
when, like I said to you, it was kind of like this penny drop. And I thought, oh right, okay, so you keep the ball on the floor, short, sharp interchanges, go forwards. That's the default setting there. Go forwards, attack, Tora. But we haven't been doing that against anybody for more than about 30 seconds. For not just this season, and this is why people have taken a big kind of sigh over the football, but it's also for the bulk of the end of last season.
Well, from the
The
11th
last,
game on, arguably you could say people worked us
yeah,
out, and our results were never the same from that point onwards.
yeah. So, I mean, 50% of last season wasn't great. And then this season, we've had 4 games in, of which has only been so far one game, and nobody cares about the data. I mean, I'll support the suggestion that so and so was more active in a positive way because, and this is where his average on pitch positional was, he was in the right place, his passing accuracy was superb, blah, blah, blah. But you can't talk yourself out of a game that you didn't win.
Yeah,
And trying to put a shine on something that fundamentally won't shine like a lump of coal is a fool's task.
you can't
But we
polish a
had a
turd,
good
H.
game.
You can't polish a
Well,
turd.
that's what my mother's gynecologist told her. But this is where we are with this team. That yesterday we had, if you like, the 12th good game under Ange Postecoglou.
And do you know what? Too many people are guilty of trying to bring all these modern data analytics into the football and base performances on that, as opposed to basing it on what you can see with your own 2 eyes. David Pleat recently, when it was disclosed the amount of options they put on the table for Tottenham at the time, Championship players, Bowen and the like, and suggestedly Daniel Levy saying to him, "Oh, well, you're not needed. It's all data analytics nowadays." Well, what a ridiculous thing to
Yeah.
say. If it looks good, feels good, and tastes good, it probably is good. But you don't need some algorithm to tell you who's a good player, who you should be signing.
No, I mean the key thing for me with using the data, and I'm a big advocate because it doesn't tell any fibs if
No.
you read it right. And I know that's like, oh, hang on a minute, what's he saying? If you do this, but you can't push water uphill very successfully. And if Spurs don't win, and if Spurs don't feel as if they're going to win, you're really scraping the barrel to turn around and say, well, I'll tell you what, mate, we had 97 shots, we had 600% of the possession. Basically, you're just making up numbers, but you take these things and you're clinging to them. It's the old one about the drunk on the lamppost. It's clinging them for support rather than illumination, you know. And you need to do that with football stats. So when we were talking then, I mentioned, like Poro, Doji. You can see there that they were useful players. That they were instru- they were integral to what we were doing. That they saw more of the ball. Their passing rates were at a range whereby they were being really useful. And I've done it before with people, and people don't like it. But like Dele Alli, when he started to go on the wane, and it wasn't like, oh, if you ignore his goals and if you ignore his assists, it's more of a one that if you ignore the fact that he isn't scoring and he isn't making any assists, his game from a data position doesn't stand up to any scrutiny. Um, so there's been a lot of weeping, wailing, and gnashing of teeth up until yesterday against the side. Where are Brentford going to finish in the division? That's the question I would want to ask. Is it going to be in the top half?
Very close for a relegation battle, I'd suggest, having failed to replace Tony, having lost
Yeah,
Vissa with a long-term injury. Looking at that side and saying there's no standouts that you'd think, oh, I'd be desperate for him in
yeah.
my team. So I think they will be workmanlike performances where they pick up possibly no dissimilar to ours points against the lesser teams in the league.
I don't know what the deal is with Frank because I was thinking about it this morning over breakfast because I had nothing better to do. But I was wondering, does he get a break from being a bit of a no-mark coach from a bus stop in Hounslow because he doesn't look like a potato peeler. He doesn't look like a toilet cleaner. He looks like a European. He dresses like a European. He speaks very well to the press. You get the impression that daft ideas do not nurture inside his head. But he's not pulling up any trees. And as you've rightly pointed out, he's lost some pretty sexy football elements from his squad. And I'll be stunned if he does much good this season.
Yeah, he's your stereotypical sports teacher, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I
But
mean,
again,
he looks like he was born with one of those quarter zip things with a shirt and tie underneath. He just has that kind of look about him.
no, I completely agree, H.
So, where do you think we're gonna? What do you think might happen against our old friends Carrierbag? I can't
Oh,
remember how you pronounce their name.
Carabag. Yeah, well,
Carabag.
I would hope that we make a statement. I'd like to see us give Mikey Moore some minutes. He came on for, what did you say, 3 or 4 minutes towards the end. I'd like to see us give.
7.
I'd like us to give Archie Gray minutes. I don't even know what nation Carabag come from. Since we had to pay 18p a time for him at the checkouts, I've stopped using him. But
I was asked at Waitrose the other day if I wanted a bag, and I said if you see my garage, I should be wholesaling. But yes, I've just changed into a single-use bag which costs more than
the
anyone else's.
the very best use of a carrier bag I've ever seen was when all the West Brom fans played Wolverhampton Wanderers in a derby. They took the old-fashioned Tesco carrier bags where they were red and blue stripes and
Oh, brilliant!
put them over all the seats in the Wolves end. So once you looked up, it resembled a wall of West Brom. That got the natives restless, I can assure you. But
Yeah,
what
yeah,
the
yeah.
hope is, do you know what I'd really like to see? And there's probably more chance of seeing Santa Claus. But I'd like to see a clean sheet. I'd like to see a clean sheet and 4 or 5 goals. I'd like to see Solanke get another couple to boost his confidence. If Johnson was able to join in crash the party, that'd be great. But it'd be also nice to have some of the kids involved. But with all these romantic notions, you need consistency. So we should really be looking to play the same side we did on Saturday, because we've had, what, 4 or 5 days break between then. The next game's not until Man United on the Sunday. So we need consistency, and we need this tight-knit squad to get used to what they've been asked to do. And you've got new players, so it's all about minutes under the belt. So I would love to see a 4-5-0 victory, but this is Spurs. We could easily lose 2-1, 3-1, or who knows.
Didn't we struggle against this lot in the past? I should know this before we come out and do something.
Did Eric Lamela score a hat-trick against Carriabag? Was one that Rabona, or is that another side that I'm dreaming of?
Let us know in the comments, kids. Let us know in the comments. But I don't think they're rubbish. I think for a side like us, there's an awful lot of teams that we're going to face in this particular competition, for as long as we're in it, who aren't rubbish, who will cause us problems.
We've also got the DNA to implode at any minute, haven't we?
Well, the moment any Spurs coach starts tinkering and moving players in and out, and we had this conversation before about having Sonny and Maddison and Kulusevski on the bench against Coventry. The moment you start doing that, we lose that edge. We lose that edge. And if you look at how important, how much of a fulcrum of the operation that Maddison was against Brentford, it doesn't matter if it was against Brentford. It's what he's capable of doing. It's what he can potentially deliver. And if he's not there, are you really going to get that from Basuma, Sarr, and Bentancur? I don't think you are.
No.
He needs, as I said before, he needs to live up to his senior player status. He needs to be that authoritative figure, and he was against Brentford. But we're going to need to see that. I hate to break it to everybody. We need to see it against this lot in Europe. We're going to need to see it against Manchester United. 100% we are. So tell me, it's the elephant in the room, Chris. I wouldn't say we sent you out there. You're on holiday. You're doing us an enormous favour. But there was a suggestion. You were going to bring some Cypriots with you.
Yeah, I think there's a saying later. And
does manana imply too much urgency?
Yeah. So you come up with these suggestions and you come up with these agreements, and then when you say we're going to do it at this time, it's later. I think people over celebrated the Tottenham game last night, and there were also a load of people watching AJ get his head bashed in. So
of course, which is always a good way of watching. AJ.
Yeah, it's always good to see Watford's son taking the knee and kissing the canvas.
And it's great news for all those white-owned businesses which he avowed people to stop spending money with.
Yeah,
So I'll miss his clicks. That's for sure.
If I can share a very brief story with you, H. Obviously, I was laying on my sunbed the other day. Lots of people clearly attracted to me, as they didn't know whether Greenpeace were going to insist the whale was put back in the ocean. But I got chatting to a lovely gentleman on the next sunbed to me, whose name was Oliver Laken, and I believe Oliver is a Substack follower of yours. Yeah, absolutely. He doesn't post particularly often, but he's always worth reading, which I think could be said for a lot of us on here. So Oliver, he's a great guy. Oliver was a thoroughly decent human being, a very nice guy, very knowledgeable about Tottenham, and is a big fan of your product, your zaniness, and your wild forthright opinions. So I said when I said when the asylum has visiting days, I'll get him a visiting order and he can come along with me to say hi. I tell you what I do feel could be on the cards is we have a meet up with it. Obviously, like the IDF, we'll give out the location. I'm not answering any pages, I can assure you. The brilliant thing with that, I got told today, was the person behind that was a young woman. How wonderful is that? She blew the nads off of all these nasty rapists. I just think there's something poetic about it. You can never trust a woman in your life. No. Don't worry about getting your work suits a pair of scissors through them if you do the nasty.
they've now got the technology; they can come and find you. I just think it's sensational.
So,
But yeah, that made my day.
So going back to that, thank you for the conversation, Oliver. It's a real pleasure to meet you, and you're a great guy.
Great stuff. I think we will do a meetup at some point, and because my missus laughs, but because I'm kind of bemused by it the whole time. That every time I meet anybody who's into this and all the rest of it, we're all the same bloody demographic.
Well, old guys rock.
Yeah, old guys rock, and it's not like we're not going to get on. It's a bunch of intolerant, seen it all, lived a bit kind of fellas who like a drink and like to escape from the ball and chain and all the rest of it. So I think a beer will be on the cards at some point. But so, is it worth getting a prediction out of you for the game? You think we're going to score 5 goals and Mikey
That-
Moore to get a hat trick? Is that where we're going with this?
I'm going to go for a 3-1.
Okay, I'm naturally miserable. I think we're going to go. I'm going to think I would be delighted, absolutely, elated if we could win by 2 goals. I have a feeling that we didn't cause problems, but we caused them problems last time. But Ange has got to put out a team that is alive and kicking.
Well, I'm
He
sure,
really has.
having been schooled in the backfields of Tokyo and Ross County, even Carabag's not going to be a bridge too far for him. Surely not.
Bridge too far, which reminds me of that little box they put Alec Guinness in.
Well,
you should see my arm.
it's a good segue into Japan, isn't it?
That's what we told them at the time, That's what we told them at the time. They weren't laughing then either. But yeah, so listen, thanks very much for giving us more time out of your valuable holiday. Let down by the locals, typical. But what can we say? Good luck for now, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And I'm going to go out of my way here. I've never done this before, I don't think. If you like it, hit like. And if you want to subscribe, which means you'll get more, hit subscribe. That's it for now. Good luck. Keep it Tottenham. There we go, folks.
Very good. I definitely think that the sound and picture quality is a lot better with this app.
Yeah, I hope the sound works with these. I wasn't able to bring my full extendable nonsense with me. With the
I thought you were saving. I thought you were saving that for the bedroom later. No.
Oh no, some of that's still in the back of the car. You can't. I've got to have a hand to assemble all that.
You got your P Diddy party pack, have you?
Yeah. Well, the problem is getting the swing in.
Yeah.
A lot of bedrooms aren't ready for that.
I haven't got a reinforced ceiling for the swing. Yeah.
And you have to wait for the live seafood to be delivered. That's another logistic nightmare, really.
Yeah, third world problems, aren't they, H?
Yeah, they are first world problems. And what are the facilities like at the hotel? Are you having a good time?
Yeah, very nice, mate. Very nice. I'm just starting to get the panda eyes where the glasses have been on so much that when you take them off, you're like, ooh. But yeah, it's like anything out in the med. When you ask for things, sometimes they're too much trouble and everything's later. So you resign the fact, I'm on my holiday. I've asked somebody to do something. If they're not going to come good, I'm certainly not going to chase them all day and all night.
I had fun and games with the lads in Turkey when I got the choppers done, and I'll be honest with you, I really enjoyed the experience. But I think it's because I'm a massive arsehole and a real people person, and so when every time anybody was asked to do something, can I get a drink or whatever, I'm always unbearably polite. But if it doesn't happen, again, I pursue it in a generous way. And one guy mentioned to me, he said, "Oh, I think my tip is going to be good." And I looked at him, so it's in front of a crowd of people. I said, "What do you mean tip?" And he goes, my tip. He says, "You're going back tomorrow." I said, no, mate. What you're talking about, that you're happy, is that you did the job.
Yeah, that you were paid
for that. You look to your employers. I said, we got on. I said, I bought you food. I bought you beer. I said, I bought you some fish. We went out for a barbecue. I said, but no, not a tip, mate. I said, as far as the job goes, you barely crawled over the line. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's great. Different cultures, you can have a laugh. And the next time you see them, you're there as an occupying force. That's what my dad always used to say.
Yeah, yeah. Right, buddy, I've got 36 minutes until happy hour.
Is that
I've got
until it goes or it starts?
well, until it starts, and I like to be down there a minute before. I like to bulk order. I'll have 5 pints, please. And they look at you as if to say, what?
Vamos a jugar en el 43. Ah, órale. Ah, bueno. Ah, pues. Sí, no mames. Ah, bueno, ¿tú ya vas a entrar?